Welcome to Foodkast. I'm your host, Rick, and today we have here Kieron Moran from Moran Mega Jam. Hi, Kieron. How are you doing?
Hi, Rick. Thanks very much for having me on today.
Could you tell us a little bit about how you start your business and how you got where you are today?
Yeah, well, to be honest, we started the business as a hobby back in 2010. I was an executive head chef in running two hotels here in Ireland and decided to give it up because I was starting to feel a bit too old to be running around hotels, working 17, 18 hours a day. And my wife suggested that I go and do the local farmers market so I could stay in the food business. So originally we started at the farmers market and we had about 6 or 7 jams and we used to make cakes and stuff at that stage. And I never intended it to be a business. It was sort of a hobby more so than anything else. And I just happened to meet the local super value manager who came along and said, "I love what you're doing. Your packaging is awful. Actually, he might not have been as complimentary as awful. He could have said a lot worse than that." And he said, "But I think you're really onto something." And so he said, "Come in to me on Monday. We'll have a chat and we'll see where this could go." And I was like, "Well, who are you?" He said, "Look, I own the two local super values here in Cavan, and I really love what you're doing. Come in to me on Monday." So I did. I followed it up, went in to meet him on Monday. We had a chat. We decided what needed to be changed about the product and how it was going to need to look to be on a supermarket shelf. And the following week, I had about 20 super values thanks to him.
Wow.
So we were sort of really in the right place at the right time. Do you know that way?
Yes, and you live all over Ireland. And then when you moved to Galway, that was your game change, would you say?
It was, yeah. I worked in a place called the Skeffington Arms Hotel on Eyre Square in Galway, and we made everything fresh in the hotel. Even chips were cut by hand. All the sauces, jams, stocks, everything was made fresh. And so a lot of the recipes that we use today were ones that I was starting to develop back 20 years ago in Galway. So, as those hotels grew and I took on other hotels for that chain, we were able to, learn I was going to bulk up those sort of recipes.
What actually food means to you?
Oh, food for me has been my passion since I was 8. I remember vividly my mother cooking a turkey curry back in the 70s. And this was the first, sort of food that blew my mind, that I thought, well, what is this? Curry? I'd never had curry before. None of my friends had curry. And I wanted to know from that moment on everything about food. And I was lucky enough that I had family who had, a pub business in Dublin, and I was able to go and work in that at a very young age. And so from there, I was able to understand the hospitality industry and understand what it meant to run a kitchen and what was actually needed. So by the time I was about 11, I could cook a whole Sunday lunch for a family of 5, which, not many 10-year-olds or 11-year-olds are able to do that.
Oh, that's amazing. Why you went to do jams, chutneys, relish? Why you choose this line of product?
Yeah, well, I like quirky products, and I had to look to see what was available at several farmers markets, and I could see a slight niche. So the niche for us was to come up with, although we make traditional jams and chutneys, was to make them slightly quirky. So instead of blackcurrant, we make blackcurrant and Guinness. Instead of strawberry, we do strawberry and bubblegum, and we've created lots of other flavours over the years. But I just find that jams and chutneys are very versatile with their flavours, and so you can be inspired by so many different things. And so I can go into a candle shop and smell a candle and go, "Oh yeah, look, those two flavours are going to work." It's very similar with food. And I just like the versatility of the jams and chutneys and what I can create from them.
Tell me something. What's the difference between them? When you call something like a jam and relish, what could you explain to us? What's the difference between these 3 products?
Yeah, well, jam traditionally is something sweet. So it's usually based with a simple recipe of 50% fruit and 50% sugar, and then whatever flavorings you want. Now, chutneys and relishes, they're sort of the same thing, really. They're more savoury and they're cooked for much longer. So they tend to have more spices and a different type of preserving for them. But, in essence, they're in the same family, but, one is sweet, one is savoury. That's the big difference between them.
The chutney and relish, what's the process you do? Is similar process, or you doing some different way, special way you do?
The one thing that chutneys and relishes have in common is that they're preserved with vinegar and sugar. And so depending on the levels of vinegar or sugar, and then how long you cook it for changes it from a relish to a chutney. So chutneys tend to be cooked for a much longer period of time. Relishes are cooked fairly quickly and with a softer type of fruit. So say for instance, we would make a tomato relish because tomatoes cook really quickly. They don't need as long to cook them. Or we do a mango chutney or a pineapple
Mm.
chutney, and the pineapples need longer to break down and to give out all that real flavor that they have inside.
You said the difference between your like jams, relish, and your chutney. What will be the difference between your products to other products? Because you source everything locally, correct?
We do 90% of everything we use is Irish. So all our strawberries, raspberries, gooseberries, blackcurrants, red onions, even our basil come from North County Meath, McCormick's farms in County Meath. Most of our beetroot comes from Fairy Hill Farm in North County Dublin. And then we would have about 300 to 400 local growers who are supplying me with the likes of rhubarb, gooseberries, red onions, strawberries, raspberries. It's all Irish. So we're not growing oranges up in Cavan just yet, so we have to import them for now. But give us time.
All throughout the year, you get the same product, or is more seasonal?
We do seasonal products. So say for instance, coming up towards Christmas, we would have plums and damsons. And so when it runs out, it runs out. So we buy in as much as we can locally, and when it's gone, it's gone. And that's one of the joys of our product, is because people know that of the freshness that we actually are buying local, that it is going to run out. We can have strawberries and raspberries all year round because it's grown in polytunnels and they can be frozen down. Other fruits don't take as well to that. So the likes of the gooseberries, plums, and that, they're seasonal.
They don't hold well, but like shelf life is quite is a fair. How can I say? They last long,
They
correct?
do. So yeah, we've got a year and a half on all our jams and chutneys, and our pesto
Wow.
lasts for about 6 months.
Wow. That's very good. And you don't add any preservatives, just natural preservatives like sugar, salt, vinegar, but nothing extra.
No, we don't add any chemicals or colouring agents into any of our food at all, and it's all gluten and dairy free. And that was something we had
Wow.
decided from the very beginning. I couldn't understand why there was gluten added to jams or chutneys when there didn't need to be. And even the vinegars that we use, we make sure that they're all gluten free vinegars,
Wow.
so that we don't need to add any chemicals to our product. It's completely natural.
You comment like you don't add any color or anything. Between one season and another for the products you can't get throughout the year, do you feel difference in the flavor?
Even every batch is slightly different. So, like,
Hmm.
because we cook in small batches, like we use a pot and a wooden spoon and a jug to fill every single jar. And so every batch is going to be slightly different. So we do slightly adapt the recipes up or down, and that comes from me tasting the product as we're making it. So we keep it as homemade and as traditional as we can, but there is going to be slight differences. Now, you'd want to be, a real food connoisseur to really notice the difference between one batch of strawberry jam and another one. Now, I personally will notice it, and I'll notice that the colour will be slightly different. But our customers, they understand that sometimes it is going to be slightly different.
And what's the feedback you have? Like when you go to farmers market, you know you're getting locally from a small producer, and you kind of understand it. But when you go to the shelves in the supermarket, you don't have that one-to-one interaction with your guests. How you transmit that information to your buyers?
Yeah, well, a lot of it comes down to our packaging. And so, like, I have one of my jars here, and so we keep it as homemade looking as we possibly can.
Hmm.
I could never understand why I couldn't have an artisan product on a supermarket shelf. When we started, that just wasn't available. Now, thanks to Super Value and Food Academy, there's lots of artisan products on the shelf now. They have a dedicated stand called Food Academy or Shop Local, and those products are making their way onto shelves. But a lot of it comes down to our labels and our packaging and the simpleness of it. So people can spot without having an Irish flag on it, people would recognise that straight off as an Irish product.
Yeah.
We also have our picture and stuff on it and a little bit about us on every single jar. So that really helps. But we do in-store tastings as well. And like, it's amazing for me to do an in-store tasting because you get that feedback straight away. And if somebody likes something, they tell you. And kids in particular are brilliant because if they don't like something, they're just short of spitting it out into your hand. But you know, you get that feedback, and you need to be able to take criticism as well as compliments. And I love that as part of my job.
You're commenting about the supermarkets and have that interaction still one to one. Like with the global warming and all the things changing around the world, how difficult are you feeling the product, like local products, being affected, like making you to go abroad to get some products?
Well, yes and no. We had a problem that last year we had to stop making raspberry jam due to the fact that the crop failed all across mainland Europe. And what happened is
Yeah.
the companies in mainland Europe bought up all the Irish stuff that was here available. So it meant that the price just skyrocketed. And so when that happened, we just had to stop making it. And so sometimes that happens, that there'll be gaps in the shelves. It's not something that I want to happen for very long, but hopefully this year it will be a great year for raspberries. And if the Europeans, if the weather is right for them, they'll have their own stock, and the Irish stuff for me will come back in price, and I'll be able to buy it. But for me, global warming is bad. It really is bad for everybody. But it does have its upsides as well. That I'm getting more and more fruits. Like strawberries, for instance, are in abundance here now that they were never in
Yes.
before, or
Yes.
gooseberries, or plums, or rhubarb. It's grown here faster than ever. And even we have a local guy here growing grapes. Last year we made grape jam. So, you would never have thought that you'd grow grapes in Ireland, especially up so north here where we are in Cavan. It might be different in Wexford, you'd have thought maybe slightly warmer. But we are definitely seeing it.
Yeah, I'm seeing like the global warming is a plus for the farmers in Ireland. Like a couple of years ago, you couldn't have corn in Ireland. 2 years ago, I had one of the producers for the restaurant I used to run bring cases and cases of corn. And I got baffled. I said, how come you plant that? He said, my first year, the weather is good and I managed to do it. And it was a beautiful product, beautiful product. What do you say, what's the best pairing for jam?
Oh, as in my favorite flavor?
Yeah, to pair, to eat with what? What would work well?
Well, I suppose if you were to stick with the old traditional strawberry, or you have strawberry and bubblegum as one of the ones we make, amazing with a scone or on a sponge cake. But if you want something slightly different, then you're heading down the savoury route. And our basil pesto is so versatile. Our basil pesto is gluten and dairy free. There's no chemicals in it whatsoever. It's preserved naturally. And it's amazing for pasta and marinade for fish or steaks, or even on roast potatoes with a little bit of sweet chili on your roast potatoes and some basil pesto. It's the nicest flavour you're ever going to have.
I love that mixture of flavors and the layers of flavors you get. I'm really intrigued. I want to try that one, the strawberry and bubblegum. What did you use to add that flavor of bubblegum?
Yeah, so in order to create
If it's not a secret.
No, well, yes and no. I actually use a blend of fruit and vegetable juice. And so what it does is when you open the jar, you'll get a waft of bubble gum without actual real bubble gum being in the jam. And so it's tricking your brain into, because you can smell bubble gum, it's tricking your brain into thinking that you can taste it when it's not actually really there at all. So a lot of the things with food science is, we use all our senses. So smell is a massive part of tasting something. Yeah. So you can trick the brain into thinking you're getting something when you're not really.
And what's your favorite relish or chutney?
Yeah, we do a pineapple and red onion, which I find amazing. I use it on so much with cold meat or cheese, or if I was making a curry, even using a packet curry sauce, if you throw in 2 teaspoons of that at the very end, it would change the dish altogether. Now, I am a fan of the traditional mango chutney, but I developed the pineapple one just as an alternative, just to have something slightly different.
Yeah, because chutney is originally from India.
Yeah,
and
like an accompaniment for curry. Yeah.
Yes, and how do you feel like now here in Ireland? Are you creating something different that actually implement, like you said, for the curries would work very well, the pineapple one? Do you feel like people understand that difference?
They do, and like at certain times, like 5 years ago, we were creating products and we were a little bit too far ahead of our time. So we were creating like a yellow chili sauce and people didn't really know what they did with it. But now they understand completely what to do with it. Or, making the pineapple chutney and people didn't understand the type of spices that were in it. Well, like I'm inspired by eating out as well. Like one of my favorite Indian restaurants is in Leash and I had a mango chutney in there that the chef was after making. And I thought, I have to come home and copy this now. So I was in the spice market collecting everything and trying to recreate that chutney that he made. I think I came fairly close to copying his one.
You said the influence of Indian cuisine in your career and since you're a child. How would you say, what would be your favorite cuisine?
I have to be honest and say I like a blend of Mediterranean and Irish cuisine mixed together. They do lend each other quite well. Although the Mediterranean diet is a lot healthier, I suppose, than Irish food traditionally,
Yeah.
we are able to sort of steal a lot from them, because we have most amazing tomatoes here. We now can grow basil here. We have amazing fish in our waters, although it's getting harder and harder for our fishermen to fish here.
Yeah.
We do have great products, and we can steal from that sort of Mediterranean style and, incorporate Irish flavors into it.
Next food trend that you believe is coming up and your jams and chutneys can be implemented?
Yeah, well, one of the big things I'm noticing is that people are getting healthier, and sugar is, an evil now. Although I don't really believe that. I think a little bit of everything is good for your soul. But like we do create now no added sugar range of jams, which
Wow.
taste equally as good as our regular ones. And if I put them up beside and didn't tell you that it was no added sugar, you would think it was just the regular strawberry, raspberry, blackcurrant jam or marmalade. You couldn't tell the difference.
Wow.
And instead of using nasty sweeteners, we've actually just used a blend of fruit and vegetable juice again to create something that looks and tastes like a jam. And that was the problem I had with so many other no added sugar ranges, is that they were more like a fruit puree, and it didn't have the consistency of jam. But we've taken about 3 years, thank God to lockdown, it gave me plenty of time to myself. I was able to develop those recipes and create products that are equally as good, if not better, than the regular ones that we make, and are slightly healthier in some people's minds, I suppose.
Do you need to add any thickener for the non-sugar base?
Yeah, we actually use an apple pectin, and so because we have so many apples here free, and there's actually
Yeah.
an orchard next door, when we're finished peeling the apples, we take all the apple skins and we boil them in a big pot of water, and we strain off that water, and that's our pectin for our jam.
Wow.
And
Very
that's what we use
clever.
then to help sell it. Yeah,
Very
and it's
clever.
something that we can get for free. Yeah.
Yeah, that's something, a story that what we love to hear here is that like the creativity the chefs have and implemented that's amazing. What do you would say to us, like what's next for Moran Mega Jam? Yeah, for the Moran brand.
Well, world domination is what I'm after. Now, we started to export now, so we export to Australia, Finland, and Italy. And that's only in the last 12 months, and I want to develop them, and eventually obviously I want to be able to sell into the UK. Because of Brexit, that's a little bit more difficult.
Yeah.
So I think mainland Europe is where we're headed, and then hopefully the States, we have our eyes on, on the States eventually. But for now, mainland Europe, there's enough Europeans of us here to be able to sell jam across Europe, and we've tested the market. We've been out to France, and we've done a couple of shows. And the French people, I thought it was all going to be chutney with cheese, but believe it or not, it was jam with cheese that they loved. So that might be a bestseller out there for us, more so than the chutney. It'll all be jam.
What would be the best combination of your range with cheese?
Oh, well, believe it or not, gooseberry jam is amazing with cheese. We also do a plum jam as well, but we do a red onion marmalade or a beetroot relish. And both of those are very versatile with a full range of cheeses. So if you're having a platter on a Friday night with a glass of wine, I would suggest the red onion one would probably be the one that will go with the most cheeses. Because it has that sweetness from the actual onions, and then that slight of the vinegar has that tartiness there as well. So I'd say that's probably the most versatile one that we do.
I want to go now to Super Value after here and trying to figure out where I can find where your products is being sold at the moment. Is just locally or is nationwide?
Yeah, so we're nationwide with Super Value, and you'll find us on the Food Academy. Of course, you can buy direct from us at moransmegajam.ie, which is our website. And on the 16th of next month, we will be in Lidl with two of our products for 2 weeks exactly. So for Patrick's Day, we'll have our blackcurrant and Guinness, and our garlic mayonnaise will be available in Lidl for 2 weeks only. So when it's gone, it's gone. Hopefully, we'll be back in again later on in the year. We'll just have to wait and see.
Oh, that's amazing. Kieron, was great to have you in. Now, just a big thank you to our sponsor today.
Sponsor is Foodkast. Do you want to promote your brand or product in an effective way direct to our public? Check our website, social media, and all products and services we provide. Contact us for more information. This is Foodkast, where you promote your brand and
Kieron,
more.
how people can contact you?
Yeah, well, as I said, we're available from moransmegajam.ie, or we are on all social medias, Moran's Megajam on Instagram, Facebook, and Twitter. You can contact me there. I'm quite happy to share my recipes with anybody who wants to make jam of their own, and I'm quite happy to talk about jam making in general.
Thank you very much. Don't forget to smash that like, follow, share button. And this is Foodkast, where you watch or listen your podcast and more.